Hi, this is Alan Gleason for ADSR. Please subscribe to the ADSR YouTube channel to keep updated on the latest videos. You can never have enough LFOs, so they say. In this video, I will show you how to use the pitch envelope in Ableton's operator as an additional LFO modulation source to not only modulate the existing LFO, but to modulate other parameters within Ableton. When you get one modulator to modulate another modulator, it opens up a lot more possibilities for producing complex LFO and modulation shapes. So to dive right in here, I've got a drum part and a chord part. The LFO here, on my chords, I'm going to get it to modulate filter cutoff. Currently it's a 1/3 of a bar is the rate. Mount to full and we can hear the result of the modulation. So my pitch envelope is activated, it's set to 100%, but because no offsets have been input here, it has no effect. So if I was to alter the shape here, it's routed to the LFO. These settings here will now affect the frequency of the LFO. So every time a new note is triggered, it re-triggers this envelope. So nothing new there really. This is a standard way that the pitch envelope could be applied. But because we're not using it for pitch necessarily, it's more functioning like an auxiliary envelope that we can send to different places around the operator. So as I mentioned, we're going to use it as an LFO. So in order to do that, I need to set it up to be looping. So I'll set it to beat. So now rather than being triggered by every note, I can set it up so that after the decay, it will loop back to the beginning again. So when the amount of time has passed between the attack and the decay time, every half a bar it will repeat. So this shape here is controlling the frequency of our LFO. So let's make some other settings. Bring the pitch envelope amount into negative. So this is on 1/3 of a bar, and this is on half a bar. So we're getting a sort of interaction between those two to create a more complex modulation shape that's affecting the cutoff frequency. Let's try some other shapes. I'll go positive again with my envelope. Again, this also depends on the length of notes that you've drawn in, and I guess also relating to the tempo of your song. So if I was happy with the modulation shape that I've created there, I'm going to move on to another part here. This time I'm going to create some sort of percussion part out of white noise. So for my oscillator, I just have it set to noise looped, and I've got a couple of delays afterwards that I'm going to turn on, and they have very short delays in terms of milliseconds, so they function more in creating comb filtering, resonating type output. So with my LFO, I'm going to assign it to modulate the pitch of the oscillator one. So because it's looped white noise, it can be affected by pitch modulation. And I don't have the rate synced this time, I just have it free running so I can set it in frequencies. So because it's been re-triggered, whatever frequency is set here, I can see it in the bottom corner, it's there, it's 1.12 Hertz. That cycle is going to get re-triggered every time the note gets re-triggered. So again, this is less rhythmic or less cyclical as the first one, which was synced to the tempo. Let's see if we can get more variation coming into it by applying our pitch/auxiliary envelope here. So I'll give it some increase there. Again, no settings have been made here. So let's see what starts to happen. So this time we'll put it to, I've got it set up to loop and beat. This time I'll put it to 8. So I'll put it to maybe a 6th or something. So there's often a bit of experimentation involved in getting something that works. As well as modulating the pitch, again I'll set it to filter. And maybe in my filter this time I might say turn on the shaper. And I'll also get the LFO to modulate. Let me see the shape drive. So now you can start to hear a more complex shape being produced. So if I turn the pitch envelope, auxiliary envelope off, hear the pattern. So I'll put it back in the mix and get it interacting with the chords part. So adjusting the delay time there, which is affecting the pitch of the white noise. I'm just going to adjust the repeat time. More swing, a bit more groove coming into there, as we said, to get more interaction between the more complex LFO here. You wouldn't call it a typical LFO because we have full control over the shape of it between the attack and the decay, and just the regular shaped LFO. You can maybe change this to something else, maybe saw up, saw down. Take actually repeat off, so we'll get it varying even more, so it won't be re-triggered every time the note plays. Maybe I can also get the auxiliary envelope to say modulate maybe the volume of the noise. More interaction happening. So the auxiliary pitch envelope is modulating the LFO speed, but also the volume. And then the LFO is modulating the filter and also the shaper within the filter, shaper drive. So the last element I'm going to bring in here is a bass part. I'm going to use the same techniques on this and see if we can get it interacting with all the other rhythmic LFO modulation that we've seen happening already. So I'll just listen to it in isolation first. So currently I have the LFO set up to modulate the volume of oscillator A. So when I turn up the amount, it's doing a quarter note modulation, saw up shape. So I'll bring in my pitch envelope. I'll start making some adjustments. It's put it to beat every half bar. Start to hear the interaction there. So the good thing about this is you often really don't know how it's going to start reacting until you start experimenting. So I'll put it in with the mix. The pitch envelope, I have it set up so, of course, modulating the LFO, but also the shaper drive on the filter. It's got some of the high end been rolled off. So let's try a different pattern. Try a different rate on the repeat. So the main LFO is on a quarter note, but it's the 16 note interaction of this modulating envelope, looping envelope, that's causing the interaction. So we're adjusting the attack time here because I have the initial set all the way down, kind of stopping or delaying the start of the modulation. So it's a bit chaotic, so I'll slow down the repeat time. So it makes it a bit more lazy. So my sustain sets how extreme or how high the modulation is going to go, the rate, this LFO at the top. So with a bit of other maybe automation or modulating this with, say, a Max for Live modulation source, you can get a lot more movement, add even further LFOs and modulation into the sound design process. This is a way of repurposing what's usually assigned to control the pitch as another LFO modulation source within Operator. By setting it up to loop, we can dial in our own shape. They can be positive or negative, and the main fun can be had by having it modulate the existing LFO to get a more complex LFO output that can be routed to different sources in the Operator, and then you've got an additional source where the looping envelope itself can be directed to. So hopefully you found that fun and you can apply it in your mixes. Please like and subscribe to the ADSR YouTube channel to keep updated on all the newest videos.